at Art Toronto 2012, I'm here with Mark Stebbins, who is part of the RBC Canadian Painting Competition. And here is two of his works at the gallery back from Montreal, Canada. I noticed this right away. I really keyed in on this really intricate painting, which we were just discussing, has an affinity with drawing and sort of the sensibility.
Yeah, you put it really well when you just said to me that you yourself were a drawer with paint.
Right.
And, that's a perfect description for, I think, what I do.
Okay. And have you said you always sort of been that way, or is this a sort of typical? Like, how long have you been working with this?
I've been working with this in this way with acrylic ink and acrylic paint, sort of a mixture of the two, since 2008. But the particular work you're looking at is part of a series that was called Glitch-alikes, and that series dates back to last fall. So it's basically a year now that I've been doing work that is far more pixelated like this and involves some elements from my palette and just remnants of the studio process, basically.
Okay, that's really interesting. I'm glad you mentioned glitch, because that's a fantastic trend. I guess it's more of a genre now than a trend. Like and I'm wondering, because you look slightly younger than I am, maybe by a year or two.
33.
You're 33?
Yeah, how old are you?
Okay, I'm 40.
Oh,
We're
okay.
40.
So yeah.
Okay. And someone described to me the other day that people born, I guess, after 1980 are digital natives, and people born before that are digital immigrants.
Okay.
So I'm a digital immigrant.
That's funny. I think I'm caught between the
That's how I
categories
feel.
in some ways. I was born in 79, so by that classification, I guess I'm an immigrant.
Yeah, and you are like the last of the last of the digital immigrants. So I was mentioning that because I'm wondering how that, as far as you're aware of sort of the influence on your own work, maybe computers have always been part of our lives, and that sort of communication media where glitch happens. Has this always just seemed like this glitch approach always seemed sort of a natural sort of thing to work with, or has always sort of been there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always had a certain like of pixelated imagery that goes back, for me anyway, goes back to Nintendo games of the 1980s, especially when those old cartridge-based games would get dust on them or whatever, and the image would break down on the television screen. And I always found that breakdown actually kind of interesting, to see the way the images would split up or blink or get moved around. So yeah, glitch has always been something that has kind of intrigued me, just as an aesthetic, I guess.
I noticed the glitch when I was looking at this, but I didn't think of it in terms of sort of video games or something. But it almost looks like a side-scroller layout. It has elements of that.
Sure.
And the other thing I really enjoyed about this is such the fine detail that's going on with some of the brushstrokes. When you bring them out, and it's kind of almost a topography. Like there's an air between the different layers. Some sort of come out, especially with the black line outlines of the
These guys right here?
yes, right there.
He's on the radar.
It's right there.
Those are in some ways kind of a remnant of the work that preceded this series. So for quite a while I was drawing out paint strokes, I guess. Usually by putting down a stroke of paint, oftentimes a multicolored kind of stroke, and then outlining it like a cartoon. Essentially almost making the stroke become a caricature of a paint stroke, a caricature of painting, and they would stand in, for me anyway, as sort of a reference to painting itself as one of the media that I was mimicking in the work. The previous work would mimic all sorts of other media through drawing, whether it was textile things, stuff with embroidery, knitting, weaving, very intricate kind of handicraft type of work that I would draw now. This is these things there that you were focusing on are a bit of a remnant of that previous work where I made like cartoon-like strokes. But in the rest of this piece, a lot of them are just sort of the unchanged paint strokes that might have been underneath in the original composition. So areas like this that are very loose and sort of untouched, kind of rough. Areas like this that have a bit of a mixture, some of them that break up, that are outlined, others that are just completely kind of raw. And then in some cases there are strokes that I've actually just stuck on. So let's see if I can find an area. Maybe things like this that were scraped from the top of one of my paint tubes and pasted onto the work.
And it's really, I'm enjoying, so you know the history and the reasoning behind every part of this, which at first glance to some people this is like a cacophony of strokes and intent. But
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it just works so well. And they say that some artists strive to be more simple, and some strive to become more complicated as their careers go on. And you've got this. It's not a common ability to get so complicated and so cohesive at the same time, I think. So that's what I'm really enjoying about this work. Is
I tend to be somewhat cerebral about my approach to painting, but not entirely. There's a lot of this that's just built as a matter of process and can be sort of intuitive, and I still, there are elements that would be hard to explain. In many cases, my use of color, some of the compositional elements where, in a lot of ways, I'm just kind of having fun with the materials at hand.
yeah.
And my own explanations of the work, the elements that I'm talking about here, that's still just my own take, and I'm hoping that the works are in some ways open enough to allow the viewer to come to it and pick up things on their own, or kind of think about the relationships between the pieces, the parts of the work, maybe in a new way, in a way that I haven't thought about it before. And I've had that experience sometimes on, say, like doing a studio visit with someone, where they'll bring up some kind of a relationship between the elements in the work that I hadn't really considered.
So thanks very much, Mark, for talking with me about this. And I find that, a lot of the greatest insight I have about my own work and other people's work actually comes from conversation. Though it's sometimes nice to spend a long time alone looking at something, but nothing really beats, in the lonely world of being a painter, actual human interaction and
It's a lot of fun.
feedback.
It's a lot of fun. I spend my days in the studio, so I really like when I get a chance to come out and talk to people about work. So it's a lot of fun. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and